Okay, so past these 2 weeks, I mainly worked on creating UI for event volunteers. So currently, what we are having right now is if an event is already existing, so we are adding volunteers to an existing event. So this is when a newly event is created, there aren't any event volunteer groups right now. So what when a group is created, there aren't any volunteers, so we can add volunteers. This list will show all the members existing in the organization, uh, and we could add those volunteers in it. It will be showing pending, and the notification will be sent to them, although that functionality is not implemented because that notification functionality first need to be implemented from the API side. Uh, so if the user has accepted, then it will show accepted. If the user has declined, then it will show decline. And we could add, according to the requirement of the volunteers required, we could add number of volunteers. So there is no limit how many volunteers you could add, and you could remove volunteer. You could edit the feature. You can delete. So yeah, that's it. Now volunteer groups are.
How does somebody know how many volunteers are outstanding? So you need 7 and you have 3. How do they? I don't think I saw
So
where it showed how many people were still needed.
uh, okay, so if we have filled, like we need volunteers required are 7. So you are
Yes.
saying how? Okay, so we need to show that in the screen that 7 volunteers are required and how many have accepted and how many have rejected the request.
Well, not well. Please go ahead. Put in the group name. Put in the volunteers required.
Okay,
Okay. So now
so
add no volunteers yet. All right. So add
yeah,
two volunteers, please. Right. See, there's nowhere here that says I still need 2 more volunteers.
yeah, yeah, that's not. Yeah,
And
this is the bug what I was talking about.
oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, but you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, I got that.
right, because the administrator, the person managing it, won't know. Boy, I need. I'm still needing. I don't know whoever it is for whatever purpose. I can't
So
think of it.
suppose like if so I need to add the if we have like we need 7 volunteers for an event, and I have sent request to 10 volunteers. So now there should be the detail like how many volunteers are yet to be
Still needed.
yeah needed.
Right. Well,
Okay.
not so much needed. Needed is what you put down, right, for 7, for example. But we still need to know how many people need to accept to meet that target of volunteers. Because this is
Uh,
going to be important. Say, for example, you're at a wedding and the event location, like a wedding reception, right? And you want to have people at each of the doors for the building or for the room, and you don't know whether you still need 1 or 2 more people. It's not available to you. You don't know how much trouble you're in because you don't have enough volunteers with this UI. So if you
okay.
can think
So
about how to handle that, that would be useful.
okay, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, so once again, the features work well, but also think about it from the perspective of you and the person actually using this thing.
Yeah.
All right. This is good. I'm glad to see we have the this potential and that we're going to have it mimicked in the web UI, I think of many people are going to be using the mobile app for this sort of purpose. So this is going to be very useful for us. All right. Thanks a lot, Dante.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, Glenn, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it was not comment. I had a doubt. I will have to implement the UI for the volunteers in the web. So, while creating volunteer groups, do we have to do we select from the all the members present in the organization, or the members who have volunteered willingly first? Maybe Peter, you could answer.
Yes. So quite often people don't really volunteer themselves. I think we should just assume that the administrator is going to propose a volunteer, and the volunteer will receive a notification and then accept it or not.
Yeah,
And
that's
Okay.
how it is right now.
yes, I think that's the way we should do it. The other thing here is that it would be good to be able to change, like manually change the status. So, for example, somebody may not respond, but you just want to force them to be accepted. So that may be a feature, not necessarily right now, but that could be something that we may want to do. So, for example, the user may or may not be a mobile app user, or it may not be a, it may not be a, maybe not be an
Java user.
yeah, maybe not be a Talua user at all. So how do you get around that problem? Right. So think about that too. How does this work with non-Talua users who are in the database? And I think that was a good question for, was it Meetle? I think Meetle may have dropped off now. Oh, no, who's doing attendance? It was
Shaker.
Shekhar, yeah. So
Yep,
Shekhar,
yep,
yeah.
Peter.
Yeah, so this is going to be something we think about. Like if somebody attends and they're not a member of the organization or whatever, and then you did your modal
On
thing
spot.
where you added the person directly, is that person now going to be in the system, or is that completely external?
Yeah, he will be the member. He will be member of that particular
Okay,
organization.
automatically. All right.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to. Good. I just thought of something. Using that methodology, we may have duplicate users all of a sudden because people may not remember their username or their names or whatever. That could be something that we have to implement. So please think about that. This may be something that we'd have as an issue later on, maybe at the very end of your project. But for example, Gmail has the option of merging contacts and to create one contact. And this methodology that you have may be one of those particular things. So, for example, somebody comes in and is going to be registered for an organization, and then, okay, sorry, they come to the event. You ask them for the email address. They say, "But I don't remember what my email address is," and you enter them in, and then all of a sudden you have two people with the same name, but and no email address, and then all of a sudden you have these duplicates springing up, and so it'd be really good for you to try and think of ways to get around that. How do we eliminate duplicates, or how do we merge duplicates? That may be uh, out of scope of what you're doing, but we should think of an issue related to that. Um, good. All right.
I mean, right now we are just adding, we are checking if the enter is duplicate by just checking the email address. But if the user doesn't remember his email address, then yeah, it will create a duplicate entry for that. Because that time we will be adding any random email or email he will suggest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we may need to think of something there, and it could not just be the person never having an entry or being a non app user. They could be an app user who just doesn't turn up with their, doesn't remember all their credentials, and
Oh,
and then we now create uh, a second person for the sake of expediency. So
mm.
if we have an event, we want to make sure that we have the right number of people who are registered attending, so we don't overfill the room. And you add the person in, and then all of a sudden we have multiple people. So okay,
I mean, then we have to search for like existing user. If the user is a part of the lava, then there should be a two like kind of two options for that also. Like if we are adding an on-spot registration, then we will have to select if the user exists in the lava or it is a totally new user. Then we have to search from if it exists, then we have to search from the lava user base for that, and we just have to add them directly to the particular organization to attend the event. And if it is totally new, then I guess we have to add the themes of that email address and all basic details.
yeah.
Yeah.
So think of how we would would do this. Maybe like when you're typing in the person's name, like it prefetches, and if it doesn't turn up,
Mhm.
then you can have the option of adding. But we're going to have this problem multiple times. It'd be really good for us to
Mhm.
figure out how to get around it. I wouldn't suggest work with your mentor to determine whether this is something that we do now or later on at the end of the project period, or whether we just add it as an issue for others to work on. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thanks. Okay, Dante.
Uh,
I don't know whether we
Also,
have any other question. Okay, go ahead, Dante.
yeah.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so when me and Glenn had a meet, so Glenn actually suggested like currently what we are doing right now is if any event for an existing event we are creating volunteer groups. So Glenn suggested like it should be independent of events. So like if an admin could create volunteer groups, and then the user who are creating events, they could assign those volunteer groups to their event. That's what he suggests.
Yes.
Like for the action items, we also have there are two types of action items. One are which link to event, and one are global action items. So
Correct.
for global action items, will we require like global volunteer groups, something like that?
Yes, I see. Yeah, I could see where there'd be value to that. It would make
Yeah.
it would make life easier for the administrator. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so I could easily see that, for example, where the organization has like musicians or a band, and so every time you have a musical event, you now have to add the band members manually every single time, which would be painful. So I could see where having volunteer groups at the organizational level would be useful. So yes, we should think about that. It's out of scope right now, but maybe later on, near the end of the project period, we could start thinking about how to implement that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.